The wildest story is the house that had skulls in it, guns in it, pornography in it. It
Ooh,
had dead animals in it. And it
ooh.
was an estate sale before I was allowed to list it because it could have been a crime scene. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker with Daniel Berger. Today, I'm happy to have on Kate Diodabo, and she comes with us from West Hartford in Newport, Rhode Island. She's a luxury sales real estate agent. She started off in the commercial real estate world and then moved over to the residential luxury world. She's with Coldwell Banker, and we love having her on. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome. Happy to be here.
So talk to me about starting off in commercial, how that was, and what made you think that you wanted to switch over to the residential side.
So, as a commercial agent, I focused on retail real estate, shopping centers, new tenant stores, street retail. We didn't do any malls or anything like that. We just did street retail, shopping center anchored plazas. So that was just that was an exciting time. It was a great learning experience. But basically, it's a very corporate environment. It's totally unlike the residential world, dealing with basically the general public, not corporations. But I learned a lot about demographics. I learned a lot about traffic studies. I learned a lot about zoning, wetlands, engineering, architecturals. I learned a lot about the construction of buildings through that process, because I did a lot of new development in that process as well, and represented landlords and tenants for new development sites, and I also learned a lot about patience as a commercial real estate agent, because the average commercial real estate deal takes, sometimes between 2 and 3 years. The average residential deal these days takes about 30 to 45 days. So that was just a totally different experience. I mean, I highly recommend it for anybody that wants to go into it. It's a very lucrative business. It's a long runway to get geared up and, start making money. But, if you have enough irons in the fire, eventually, like in the, 2 to 4 year mark, you'll start making some money if you're good at what you do. Versus residential, it's a very short runway. I mean, you still have to be very good at what you do, but you can certainly make money quicker if you're working really hard and working all the time. So
Definitely, commercial definitely seems much more corporate, much more Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
it's very corporate. It's money. Well, here's the thing. There is no more Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. But when I did it, because everyone's, people are sending emails at 2 and 3 in the morning, right? You have your tenant reps that represent
Yep,
all these people.
guilty. I'm
Right.
guilty of that.
Right. So, I mean, if you have a tenant, a major national tenant, and they have, their real estate director, you're going to get an email, on Sunday or Saturday. And, these guys are working all the time. They're flying all over the country. They're looking at sites. They're working all the time. When I did it, it was definitely more 9 to 5. However, at night, we didn't work weekends. We didn't work holidays. But at night, you're at a zoning meeting at night. You know what I mean? Or you're out to dinner with your clients because you're on a 4-day site tour through 4 different states. It's technically 9 to 5, but really not 9 to 5. I mean, I work as many hours in commercial real estate as I really work in residential real estate.
Well, that's because you're good. Because I always feel like whenever I have a client that's trying to do something that's pseudo commercial, I never can get the people, to answer messages or whatever. So it's kind of nuts. So,
Well, here's the thing, in my experience, people need to specialize. It's really impossible to be the master of all trades. You know what I mean? You really should specialize. If you're going to go into commercial real estate, you should specialize in industrial or office or retail or whatever it is, or interior mall leasing. You should specialize because there's so much to know about each niche of the market. You need to know everything in order to be successful. And it's impossible to know everything about, about all these different industries. I mean, we used to do site rides every single week. We would drive retail corridors in New England and with all the agents in our office, and we would drive up and down the street to see who's coming, who's going, where the new development is. We would have meetings with each other to talk about who the new tenants are coming in, what landlords want to sell, what space is coming available, what big company has acquired other companies so that, all these big spaces are going to come available. What's happening in the industry? Who's going out of business? You need to know all of this because your clients depend on the fact that you already know. If they're telling you something and you don't know, you're not doing your job.
That sounds it sounds like so different than what we do. So what made you decide that you were done with that? What tells you, Kate, I got to move from commercial, I got to go into residential.
Well, I've always done everything by what I want, what I like to do. That's just me. I never do anything that I'm supposed to do. I do things that I like to do and that I have a strong passion and an interest for. So I was a commercial agent for a long time, and then I stayed at home, like raised my family. But in the meantime, I was like buying and selling and renovating houses, because I love architecture, I love design, and I love houses. So, and then I did a ton of volunteer work, a ton. And you always rise to your own level of inadequacy. So I rose up to positions I probably should not have had, but I did them anyways. And then I decided, and it was all very fulfilling. It was very fulfilling to be able to spend that time with my family. It was very fulfilling and exciting to do renovation projects and flips. It was very exciting to work on all of these, charitable organizations and bring my real estate expertise to those organizations. A couple times I was able to negotiate deals for the charitable organization, so that felt really good. But then when I decided that it was time, I was going to go back into the workforce like full time, I said, I'm just going to do what I do best. And that was residential. I mean, I didn't also want to be away from home, like up in New Hampshire at a zoning meeting, staying in a hotel all night. You know what I mean? That's
Right.
not really what I wanted. And that's what you have to do. You have to do what you have to do for your clients. So I decided to go into residential, and it's something that, I sort of was doing anyways. I was consulting with my friends, telling them what to do on their houses and just not getting paid. I was doing it anyways. And people were always calling me and asking me, how did you sell your house for that much money? Da, 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 da. So I just monetized it and I went into real estate, and I found that it was a very short runway for me because I had a very big network. I would say that your network is the most important thing that you have as a real estate agent. If you don't have any friends or family, or you're like a lone person on an island, you're going to have a very difficult time in residential real estate. You need to tap into your own network. People need.
Tell me about the fixes and flips that you've done for your, because I think that's fantastic, and I think that also makes you a much better residential broker or agent, because you know what the pitfalls are for your clients that are coming in, and as investors or as homeowners, that what they're going to have to face with the town, and things are always cost more money than you think they're going to cost, because when you open something up, you're like, oh my God. So is there you're still doing fixes and flips?
Yes, I still do flips. I have a partner that I do flips with. She's a very talented builder. She's also a designer and a draftsman. And so and she has a great team of people. So she has an unbelievable eye. So I can kind of focus more on the business side, the selling, the buying, and she can handle all the day to day and all the design. And I can weigh in because that is very exciting. But I would
Is
say,
it
go ahead.
Well, is there a reason why you're not just still doing that and you're also doing buying and selling for others? Is it just because it's hard, the inventory is not there, or you can only do something, like, what's the reason that you also are doing both?
Well, I don't know if just it's my nature. I love a deal. I love to negotiate a deal. I love to win a deal. I love to sell a piece of property for a ton of money for my clients. I love to get a piece of property for my clients way under what it's worth, or just get them in the perfect situation that they've been dying to get into and they haven't been able to get into it. I just love a deal. It's just part of my nature. I mean, I'm a deal maker. At heart, I'm a deal maker. And I do love design. I love aesthetic. I mean, I'm a Libra, so we love beauty. But I also love a deal. I mean, it's very exciting to make these deals. Very exciting. I also love to work collaboratively with other people. I mean, I'm a people person. I'm happiest when I'm around a lot of people and there's a lot of conversation. So I love my office. I love my coworkers. I have an awesome team member in Connecticut. I have an awesome team member in Newport. I love to work collaboratively with other people. It's really what like gets me up in the morning for sure. If anybody that knows me, they know it's like an endless conversation. Like it's an endless, I just love it. And so, just working on flips, and I'm also a person that for some reason, I don't know why I've always been like this. I don't like to be pigeonholed. You know what I mean? Like you never know. Maybe I'll run for office someday. Who knows? But I don't know. That's just kind of my personality. So I decided when I went back into like working like out of the house every day, I was just going to roll with what I did best. And who knows? I mean, I never thought I'd be on a podcast. Look, I'm on a podcast.
You are on a podcast. We
Right.
found you.
Yeah.
So so I don't want to pigeonhole you but what I read about you is that you're a luxury real estate
Yes.
agent. Is that true that are you pigeonholed in luxury, or you do all sorts of, do you do less than luxury? And what is the definition of luxury?
Listen, my team member and I found a rental and actually, this was a referral from my daughter, who's a real estate agent in Boston. There's nothing more exciting than talking about real estate with my daughter, who is a new agent and already like skyrocketing. But I have a rental in West Hartford. She's looking either to rent or to buy. And I found an off market because I have a big network in West Hartford. I found a great off market for her to take a look at. I don't know if she'll take it, but you never know. So, I mean, and then she's also going to be, she's not going to be a luxury real estate buyer, but once she rents, if she needs to plant her flag there, then, we're going to help her buy her home if she likes it there. And I have great satisfaction doing that. I love helping people and I like helping people make great decisions for themselves and furthering their lives and helping their family. I mean, it just so happens that I I'm a strong negotiator, so people with bigger properties or more expensive properties often call me to help them sell them. I mean, I have three off-market deals right now that are I think between all three of them, it's north of 7 million that'll probably close in the next 45 days. So, I mean,
Luxury is also depends on what you're marketing. I'm in Metro New York,
oh,
so
that's
it's
not luxury
so
enough.
it's Westchester, it's Fairfield, it's Greenwich, it's
Yes.
Stanford.
I don't do really anything in Greenwich, Stanford, Fairfield. That's a totally different market. Again, you have to know your market. You really need to know your market. And I just referred somebody down to Fairfield because there's a great agent down there and I wanted to help my buyer. The best way I could help my buyer was to refer that buyer to this agent that knew every piece of dirt in that market. That's how you help your buyers and your sellers.
True. I would also say though, so I don't pigeonhole myself in downscale, upscale. I just help
Yeah,
clients, right?
right.
And so, like last year, I happened to sell the most expensive home on market in my town in Rybrook, New York, at 3.6 million. And I've done some condos in Greenwich. So I don't say that I'm. It's funny because I'm probably more broader of multiple counties in New York and multiple counties even in Connecticut, because ultimately, so it really, I think it depends, right? Because it is about relationships and about your Rolodex, right? So if I have one of my clients who basically is saying he wants, he needs help selling his condo in Greenwich, I don't need to be the person that does the most business in Greenwich. I understand what houses are, and then
Hmm.
you figure out and you do your homework and you figure out what's the market, and you go from there, because it's really a relationship.
Yeah, it's a different on the sales side anyways. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like listen, I can sell a condo in Greenwich too. You know what I mean? It's a matter of looking at
a
all the
hundred
comps,
percent.
seeing what's going on there and pricing it. Like you were talking, one of the thoughts I had was about like pricing strategy. You have to be really smart about how you price something. And that is really what you bring to the table for your sellers. Because if you don't price their house correctly, you can damage the value of their house. And that doesn't do anybody any good.
It's funny because just today I was going through my social media feed and I saw that somebody sold in my town and they posted that they got 44% over their list price, right? And it was obviously a listing agent that basically said that. And my view is because you mispriced it. You
Mhm.
purposely mispriced it to try to drive it up. And I'm like, I don't do social media that basically says things like that. I generally try to just thank both sides. Thank you to the buyer. Thank you to this. Thank you to this. Right? Because saying that, you're basically sticking someone's nose in how they paid so much more than a list price. Well, I would argue that was a bad list price, right? Because if you actually knew what the list price was, and I'm not saying that people can't come over and,
I've
there's
seen
a
it. I mean, it's rare. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen it go crazy, crazy, crazy over in a 20, 30, 40 offer bidding war. I've seen it go to
sure, but I think
numbers. That's not normal.
this was a
Yeah.
case of they listed it under a million purposely for multiple reasons, and then go. And I'm like, really? I'm like, I don't.
Mhm.
So in my town, I just recently 19 offers, and my client had won it, but it was over list because it was just a ridiculously low list price,
Yeah.
and then I listed a house in the town and I got four offers. We
Hmm.
were, I think, 100,000 over list. I didn't need 150 people going through the
Yeah.
property. 30 people and six offers got me, because I reasonably priced it. So, and I agree with you. My view is,
And
again,
usually there's a high and there's a low, and everybody else is in the middle anyway. So you don't need
right. And
40 people in the middle.
no, and our thing also is that I agree with you 100% about pricing. So you can't misprice it, right? Because if you price it too low, the market's going to figure it out. But I always think I
You
rather
can
price it on
overprice it though and hurt. You can overprice it.
you can, but also yes, you can. And I think it depends on where it is, but ultimately we also work for our clients, right? So
Right.
I think
Right.
we use our professional opinion and tell them this is the range that I think you should do it. If I mean, some agents don't do this, but if my client says, I hear you, but I want to go with this number,
Hmm.
I'm not going to walk away from the deal. I'm like, we're a team, and I'm going to be like, fine, I will
Right.
try to do that.
Right.
And you know that there's risk to it, right? But you can also lower price, right? So, but
Right. And you can
ultimately,
also say to your seller, if you, I'm willing to do the higher number, but I just want to clarify that if it doesn't work at that number, here's the number, here's the next step. This is what we need to go to. But you just don't want it there to be, it's so stressful for a seller to sell their property, if especially if they live there. It's better for them to know like the next step. If for some reason you want to try it at this number, we'll do everything we possibly can to sell it for this number. But if it doesn't sell at that number in this time frame, let's move to this number because ultimately you want to get it sold. Unless
and I love
it
that.
says
I,
I
I
don't
love that
care.
you're setting up the game plan and what's
Hmm.
going to happen. And again, if they get the number, it's better for you. You make more money as well.
Totally.
So I
Totally.
think, and I think what you're doing is you're just showing your professionalism. You're showing this is what the market is, and and you say it's above what you would do if it was yours. And you know what? Most of the clients, when they hear you and they see what you've done, they're probably going to let you pick the number because you're the professional. They're not the professional. They're just the owner of the house, but we work
Right.
together. And
Right.
so most often people will accept what you say. And in the other cases, you know what? Let them try.
Right.
So I think flexibility I think is important.
Totally.
Is important. But I think it's good that you have your vision, you have your smarts, you know what you're doing, and you're going to try to say, this is my view of what you should do, and then roll with it. So I think roll with it, you
Yeah.
know, rolling with it has gotten me a lot of business and a lot of referrals because of my flexibility.
Well, you want to have a positive experience. And I think you're 100% right when you said you're a team. You want to have a we're in it for the good stuff together and we're in it for the bad stuff together. I mean, we're a team. We're going to go through the process. I try to educate people as much about the process as humanly possible, knowing that until they actually go through it, they really don't know what it feels like, especially if they haven't sold their house in 30 years. They really don't know what the process feels like. You can tell someone 100 times, this is what's going to happen, but living it is a totally different situation. But knowing that we're a team, we're going to get across the finish line together and being likable in the process is huge. And to be likable, and I tell this to a lot of young agents, and some get it and some don't, is to communicate, communicate, communicate. If you go dark, if you go silent, if you don't communicate, people just start to naturally freak out.
Right. Their
Terrible
heads
feeling.
just their heads just swirl of, oh my God, this is happening, or
Mhm,
I'm not knowing what's going on. It's always good
mhm.
to try to do that.
Nobody's paying attention. You forgot me. Something's going to go wrong. Somebody's not noticing something. I mean, just communicate, communicate,
Well,
communicate.
because if you're not communicating with your buyers and sellers, then maybe you're not communicating with the offers that are coming in
Exactly.
either,
Her head just
right?
starts to spin as to, what could possibly be going on. Could I have gotten more money? Did she leave money? Whatever it is there a problem with the deal? Just, but it's really kind of amazing to me how, you know, it's not typical that agents really communicate a lot. It's like the number one problem that I hear from sellers that had an issue with their agent. I mean, I just got a call from a friend, literally just got a call from a friend who's in another state whose agent has ghosted her. And she said, "What do I do?" I said, I guess you can like call the manager broker of the
I
company. And I said, I don't even that's not even something that I would even ever even
here,
happen. I've never even
here
heard of
here's
that
the
happening.
here's the problem with real estate. We're lucky to have someone like you. You know what you're doing, right? In order to be a real estate agent, you don't even need a high school education. All you need to do is pass a test. It's a
Right.
7,500 multiple choice question
Mm-hmm.
test. Big
Mm-hmm.
deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're an agent,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that's it, right? Or and how about the people that oh, this is so easy. I'm part time. I'm really a I'm in the fire department, the police department.
Yeah.
I'm a tennis pro. You name what? I'm a dentist. I mean, you hear all these stories of all these other people that because television's glamorized what
Mm-hmm.
we do, right? And don't get me wrong, I like the TV ness of $1 million listing of
It's so
selling sunset.
unrealistic, though.
Of course, they're
It's so unrealistic. It's not that good. First of all, I haven't worn heels to a showing in 10 years. You
you know
cannot
what? Neither
walk
have
in the
I.
backyard and look at the septic system or in the basement of especially in Newport, we have these basements that are this high and like dirt floors. You're not walking down there in stilettos. That is not your job. Your job is not to show up and just look great at a showing with the staging. Your job is to negotiate a deal, investigate, ask questions, know the comps, look at the building, make sure you understand if it's good construction, if there's any problems, have a good rapport with the other agent. I mean, it's just so funny to me when I see these shows. I see how totally dressed up everybody is, like in these heels, and it's just so unrealistic. It just
Well,
almost has
because it's
nothing to
cat
do with
right
our job.
it's because it's production day, and so you're going to dress up.
I know. I
So
guess if I
the
was on a TV show, maybe I would wear heels, but
So
I only for a wedding.
the good news is nobody has ever said that I've looked good at a showing because I'm wearing shorts. I'm wearing, like especially once you know me, right? I'm wearing because there's no dress codes in my showings. You wear whatever's comfortable. I'm gonna wear because ultimately what I'm wearing is not how I'm gonna help you buy and sell a house and communicate. But everything else you said about follow up, about being there, about communicating, that's what's important. And so,
Mhm.
for me,
And
I'm
knowing your market, know the market. I have to tell agents all the time, the younger agents, I tell them all the time, what are you doing on the weekends? Are you going to Nantucket or are you going to open houses? You need to know, you need to see the inside of these houses. Know your inventory. You need to say to your buyers, I was in that house. It doesn't even compare to this house. I know they're the same price, but that house does not even compare to this house. This house is a good deal. Know your market.
Yes. And so what's interesting is back, old school, you would only really be the agent in a very small town, right? Because you
Mhm.
would have a brick and mortar business. You would be sitting in your office. Clients would come in, they not, and then you would open up the book, the binders, and they would have the keys in them and
Yeah.
whatever. And
That
because
was
of the
before I
internet,
went into real estate, but yes,
me,
I know what you're
me,
talking
me,
about.
me too. But now I'm open. But
Hmm.
as people see that, then I have to then go say, okay, what are the other houses that are in this market, right? But you doing showings. That's why I think I love what you're saying is that I'm not a listing agent. I'm not a buying agent. I'm an agent that happens to do all of those things, right? Because
And you're not a paper pusher. I don't just push one piece of paper to the other side of the desk and I don't add any value in between. Like for example, in this crazy market, you're gonna, have a listing, especially in the markets I work in. most of the time the listing is going to sell within a week. If it's priced appropriately, it'll sell within a week. But I do have listings sometimes that don't sell within a week. But I don't just sit there and wait for the phone to ring and call. And I actually go on MLS. I look at the reverse search on MLS, which there are hundreds. I look to see which agents sent it to their clients, and I call and I text each one of those agents and ask, did your client see it? What did they think? Bring them through. I think one of your clients liked it on the reverse search because I can actually see on the reverse
Of
search,
course.
liked it. You know how many houses I've sold doing that in the last year? Four. Four
Yep.
houses that I would have had to do a price reduction on, but instead I've been texting and calling all the agents. So two things happen. One, an awareness issue because everyone is so busy, you don't know everything that's on the market. Two, I engage with the agent, so I get to know the agent better, so I get more information from the agent. If you don't have a buyer for this, what else do you have on the market? Because I have clients, what else do you have on the market? Do you have something off market? Whatever. It's but it's working to make the deal, not just sitting back and waiting for an offer to come through. So that's
Uh,
another thing that I think agents need to do, which I don't really
yep.
think that many do.
No, or I mean, but I think the thing that you're doing that's different is that it's also not just the reverse prospecting when you just set it up and it goes out. It's also done via the phone call, the text, the personalized touch. So I currently right now, it was funny. I had a deal that went south because when we were in contract and then they ran title and there were a lot of open permits and things that were not or illegal about the place that was not really disclosed. And so we ended up getting out of the deal. And the agent was also having things going on in her life. And so she got a little persnickety, and
Mhm.
it was so I let it go. Like I have a couple of voicemails from her of not nice, right? But I mean, I had to
No
protect
one likes to be told no. No
well,
one
I
likes
had
to
to
be
also
told no.
protect my client. My client was
Of
the buyer,
course.
and I'm like, we
Of
can't
course.
do this under this. So
Right.
the deal dies. A couple months later, I have a listing, and she she comes in. She wants to put a bid in, and I tell my clients, I go, I have there's a little bit of a story with
Hmm.
her. But I go,
Hmm.
I'm not going to bring it up because ultimately I'm not hurting our deal, but I'm just letting
Right.
you know, whatever.
Hmm.
So what happens?
Did
We
you
get
make
into
her pay a
contract.
little bit more? Did you make her pay a little
I
bit more?
know because my clients wanted to. So I get us in contract. And up until we're in contract, she doesn't mention that she left me a ridiculous voicemail. And then eventually she's like, yeah, I'm sorry about it. And then she tells me her background that somebody got ill in her family and
Yeah.
it was bad times, whatever. The funny thing is, we're closing on one of that property tomorrow, and I'm in contract with her on three properties right now.
See, there you go.
So
Communication. She
and
communicated
so
what her issues
and
were.
what's interesting is one of those the one that I fell out of contract, he fell out of contract with someone else. So when she fell out with someone else, I go, why don't we just make this work? And so because she had a better experience when I'm the listing agent, she was able to
Mhm.
refocus and understand that I get deals done. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like I was just saying no, no, no. So we actually retraded it, and we're back in contract on the one that's from like months ago. We fell out of contract, so we're back in contract, and then a new one comes up where she's co-listing agent. It's a fix and flip. They had like 50 offers. We were number two, and somebody was so much higher than us, right? Waiving everything so much higher. We're like, we can't go to that number. So what
It just
happens?
shows you're a deal maker.
What happens? That deal personnel wants inspections, and they weren't supposed to get anything, and they're like, and it's like 50,000 more than mine. So what does she do? She's like, is your client still interested? So they didn't go to anyone else. They didn't ask people to rebid. They went to me. I was number two, $50,000 less. And they said, and I said, yes, my deal still stands. And like within 2 days, deposit was there, contracts were signed. So everything is about relationship, and
Everything.
it's only about your personality and how you interact with other agents. That can get deals done too. Sometimes it's not just the list price. It's because if you have that other agent saying, listen, I know the agent, they get it done, they're serious, we're not going
Mhm.
to be, whatever. So I think that, and now that it's 10 years in and I did 55 transactions last year. So every transaction I'm getting more under my belt. I'm meeting more people. And then, for the most part, most of the transactions are amazing. Every now and then they're not, because if you're representing your client and they're trying to like pull one over on your client, you're not going to just sit back and allow that to happen. You have to stand
No.
up for your client's rights. And
You
I'd
have to be
rather,
professional all the time, even if the agent on the other end is your best friend. You're not best friends in that transaction. You have to represent your client, your buyer, your seller. But you should, but maintaining a good, positive, workable relationship with those other agents benefits your buyers and your sellers always, because you can get a deal that you couldn't otherwise get a deal. You know what I mean? You can get an
yeah,
agent to say, I mean, I've done it so many times. I've said, listen, I have a listing that's not selling. You know me. This is a good house. Bring your buyers through. Make a deal. Bring your buyers through. Let's make a deal. This is a good house. I'll make sure that we can make a strong deal here. Like let's go. Like, you know what I mean? And then everybody's happy. But if no
you're
one knows
probably, I
you,
bet I'm going to say that, Kate, you're nicer than me and you're probably better, because I sometimes, see, that's the problem when you're a broker, right? And I'm the owner. So I feel like I can say whatever I want because I don't have like a general manager or a corporate, I don't have a corporation structure above me telling me like, why the hell did you say that? But like, so, I had a deal right now where it's on a
I think the
condo.
people in my office are laughing that you said you're nicer than me. Because I've like
And then wow,
locked horns with a couple people in my office that would say, oh, wait, oh, wait.
like so my example, this current example, is that it's a co-op. I'm listing agent. The buyer waived their appraisal and they use Rocket Mortgage, Quicken Loans, Rocket Mortgage, and I told them don't. They're terrible. They're just terrible. And so what happens is we were in the like 249 was the list price, was the contract price, and they come in at 200, right? And it's a terrible appraisal. If you look at the appraisal, they tried to challenge it. The person wouldn't do it. And I'm like, I hate to tell you, not my problem. You waived the appraisal contingency, so you now have to buy the house. And they're like, well, the buyer's a young nurse, blah, blah, blah. And I go, okay. I'm like, and then they're basically, and they tried to get out of the deal. And they said that we actually coerced them. We fraudulently induced them to bid list. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that's your job as the agent to advise them. Will it appraise? Will it not appraise? And what does that mean if it doesn't appraise? And the lawyer. And so it was really posturing to try to get out of the deal. We actually
Wow.
and so like I'm protect my
Was
client
the
and
other
it's
agent a member of your brokerage?
no,
So
no.
how could they
And
possibly even say that? That's crazy.
well, what the agent didn't say that, the lawyer said that,
Well, I'll
right?
just tell you, it's like the same old thing. Like I said, no one likes the word no. Everyone is nice, everyone's happy until someone says no, and then the teeth come out. That's what it is.
Right. And, well, my teeth came out because I'm like, we're in contract. That is not my
Yeah, read your
responsibility that you,
contract.
right.
Yeah.
They're like, I induced them. Of course I induced them. I'm a
Well
listing agent. I'm
negotiated.
inducing you to go as high as possible. And of course I want to waive the appraisal because there's shit appraisers out there. And I
Mhm.
knew, so I actually
But that's
negotiated. I
why
said,
that's why sellers take cash deals and no appraisal deals, because they know these appraisals can like totally ruin the deal
and
at any
don't,
given time. And then
and I said,
and it was
and then they said, well, she
you had
doesn't
the
have the
opportunity
cash.
to get it under
And they
contract.
said,
That's
well,
not your
they
problem.
said this buyer doesn't have the cash to close. I'll go, okay, then why did you allow that?
Right.
Right? So you're
Right.
going to lose your deposit, and
Right.
so it's kind of like that's when I get annoying, right?
Well, that's
Where
you're just standing up for your clients at that
I
point.
exactly, and they're like, well, why can't we play nice? I go, well, you're not playing nice. So and in the end of the day,
Did they settle on the deposit?
no, we actually. So what's funny is this buyer of mine, this seller just bought a property. We waived the appraisal contingency because it was a fix and flip that had 30 people bidding. We had to do it, and
Hmm.
ours didn't appraise. Ours, I think, missed the appraisal by like $15,000 on a house. So we had to come up with like 90% of the appraisal gap. So, and in order to do it, we had to sell some investments, right? So
Okay.
my client knows what it's like for this to
Mhm.
happen and didn't cry like a baby. They went to market. They basically sold with assets that they needed to, which to make sure that the
Yeah.
contract that they signed is valid. And so it annoyed us more that we know what we did. And when we waived it and it came back to hurt us, we at least knew what that conversation was. So nobody complained. We just did it. Right.
Right.
So we actually retraded it at a number at 225. But I kind of said at 225, we're only paying half of the commission to the agent. And either you're not going to get the other half or you have to get it from the other side. So they ended up getting it instead of 249, 225, because obviously, even get it. We didn't want to take the deposit at all from a young. We didn't want to do it, but it's costing us money. We don't live there anymore, right? So,
Right.
um,
Sometimes you
I
just have to make the best deal. At that point, you just got to make the best deal.
right,
Right.
and so that right. So we have to make a decision that's best for us, and that was what my coaching was that based off of where we are today, this is where we want to do. Let's get it done. Getting it done faster is better, and it's still for
Mhm.
more money than they paid. That's an example of I'm protecting the interests of my seller. If
Mhm.
the other agent actually, she understood, and it was really more the agent and her client. It is what it is, right? But it's like I can't just bend over backwards. I'm protecting, my client there.
Well,
But
I always say to my sellers, just so you know, when we get a deposit on a property, that deposit goes in escrow. If something goes wrong with the contract, that deposit does not automatically go to you. Sellers are under the misconception that if there's a hiccup in the contract, they can just take the deposit. I said the buyer has to sign off on you getting that deposit.
right, they can
They,
lien your
they can
property
lien your
and sue
property.
you.
They can prevent you from selling that piece of property from now until like kingdom come. So I said, you just have to understand that yes, you have a contract, but you have to pay a litigator probably 5 grand up front to enforce that contract, and you got to go to court. So nine
Wow.
out of 10 times people end up settling because it's a way to get to the finish line. And the finish line is selling the property. But it is
Well,
something that I talk about with my sellers nonstop because that seems to be a misconception with the seller that if they have a big deposit, they can just grab it if there's a problem.
correct. And so we knew that. And so like if our deposit was 10%, so it was $25,000, I don't think you can get retainer, probably would have been at least $10,000, right? To retain a litigator to do that. So you're going to pay 10 to
It's a
15,000 to
settle.
save
Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't going to happen but in the end of the day, and the funny thing is we were reasonable and we came up with other options, and they were they were not necessarily coming to the table, and I'm like, ridiculous. So in the end of the day, everything that you said. It's all about communicating. And
Because they
while
trusted you, so they trusted your advice at the end.
my seller 100% was listening to everything that I told them. They listened because I already represented them in the buy, and they
Hmm.
understood.
Hmm.
And then when the other agent wasn't saying that I was, they understood, and it was really just trying to get their client. And what happens is people use chat gpt to figure things out, and they ask their parents. So it was
Oh,
funny because their parents were like, we shouldn't do this, you're overbidding. We're like, well, now it's too late, you're in contract. But in the end of the day,
I
the
really
threat.
don't like it when parents come to a showing.
Wow.
It wrecks the
The
showing.
deal,
I
no,
mean, a lot of
it's
times if it's younger people and they like need the advice of their parents and their parents are helping them and they just want like a second opinion there. But the amount of parents that I've had come to a showing and all of a sudden, the guy might be like a dentist or something, and
right.
then all of a sudden they become a contractor in the showing and they almost like have to sort of prove why they're there and they have to find like fault with everything. I don't think I've ever had an experience when a parent came to a showing where they said, "Yes, this is a great deal. I think we should get it." Have you?
The funny thing is the showing is one thing because that's pre-offer. It's
Oh, the
worse when
inspection.
they want
Yeah.
a second showing after the offer is done.
Yes.
Like, oh,
Yes.
before the inspection, my parents want to see it. That's the
Yes.
worst,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um,
They don't
you
know the
know,
market. They don't know how they probably haven't bought or sold a house in a very long time. So they really don't understand the process. And they're not necessarily a contractor. So,
right.
that's why you hire professionals. You hire inspectors, you have somebody negotiating for you, you have an attorney. And you have someone with market knowledge, but it really is, it's hard. You can never say to a client who they can and cannot bring to a showing. But it generally speaking, what happens is they say no so many times, the kids stop asking them to come. And then they buy the one that they didn't go to.
Exactly. And then sometimes they lose, right? So it's also the stages of showing with buyers is I've had an example of someone I've been to their wedding, so I know the family very well. And in a house early on, it things happened and whatever they walked away from it, but then they kept for the next 40 houses that we're looking were, and I didn't want to be like I told you so because
Yeah.
it was also so early in the process that I am
Yeah.
not going to tell someone early on you must buy this. It's a lot easier after you show 30, 40 houses to say
Mhm.
based off of everything we've seen, this is an amazing house and you should buy it, right?
I know.
So
Well,
as you build that, you're able to say that.
I always equate it to looking for a wedding dress. I mean, you never want to think that the first wedding you dress you try on is the one, but it might be. You know what I mean? But usually, you're right. Usually buyers have to go through the rinse and wash cycle a bunch of times before they come to the conclusion of what they're actually going to be buying. So it's tough. But I mean, even and the other thing that happens too with when buyers bring their parents is sometimes the parents are loaning them money to buy the house. So the parents have a bigger stake in the buy. And, I mean, that's happened in my own family. And I've had to say, the bank isn't telling them what to buy. The bank is also loaning them money. Let them like make the best decision based on their needs. You know what I mean? It just,
Yep.
I think, and I probably will do it with my kids. I'll probably weigh in too much because I'm sure my kids are only 23 and 24, but I'll probably weigh in, maybe not with my daughter because she's in real estate, but I'll probably weigh in too much about what I think about a property because I've renovated and I've flipped and I've bought and I've sold and blah, 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 blah,
It's
blah.
also you're
And
not the
she'll probably
dentist.
kick me
You're
out of
not
a
you're
showing
but
too.
you're not the dentist doing that, right? You're a professional person in the
I know,
commercial
but
and
still,
residential world.
but again, there's a lot I still don't know. So,
Well,
and there's a value, to be honest with you, in like buying, as long as you don't spend too much money, in buying some of these white elephants. I mean, the biggest white elephant I ever bought was this 10,000 when I was 27. I bought a 10,000 square foot mansion in Glastonbury, Connecticut. We were only the third owner of the house since 1908, and I thought it just needed a paint job.
right. I'm sure it
Four
was more than that.
years later, we were
Exactly.
finishing renovating it. 4 years later.
Crazy.
I learned
Well,
more on that project. It set me up for my career for the rest of my life. I learned more on that project. I'm so grateful every day that we did that. I learned well, we made a bunch of money, which was great, but I'm probably not if I calculated all the sweat equity. But my husband and I learned more on that project than we ever could have in a book. It was unbelievable. So sometimes
well,
sometimes it's not a terrible thing.
speaking of book, I wrote a book this year, The Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. It's $10 on Amazon, and
Good.
it talks about the story, like the crazy stories of things that we were just talking about. So
Yeah.
it's not about it's about the people of real estate, not about the house. It's really the house is the least of
Yeah,
it.
the
So
people, yeah, that's a wild ride. The
that's what the
people of real
story
estate.
is. So,
That's
so
great.
exactly,
What's the
yeah.
funniest story in there?
The funniest story. That's a good one. I don't know if
Wildest.
the wildest story is the house that had skulls in it, guns in it, pornography in it. It
Ooh,
had dead animals in it, and it
ooh.
was an estate sale. And I went in with the it was like a nephew of the person that lived there. Didn't even know he had an uncle, and until the state said you have to do this, and it was just helping him get that and getting it ready to done. And then I had another house with him as well. So that was kind of crazy. So we had to actually call the police in to see if the skulls were actually like skulls that we had to worry about, and they basically sent it to the FBI to do an analysis of what there were two skulls, but one skull looked it was more like for medical, and then the other one was a skull, but they said it was severed from the head over 100 years ago, so that we didn't have to worry that that person killed them. So we had to wait to get that analysis before I was allowed to list it because it could have been a crime scene. So
That's great.
that was the story.
Wow.
But
I haven't
Kate,
had that happen.
yeah, crazy stuff.
I hope I
Um,
don't have that happen.
no, I agree. I always say you smell the body before you see the body.
Ew.
That's what I say when we're
God.
walking in these places with our flashlights on our phone and whatever. But
I
Kate,
hate going into like attics and basements. Oh, that's
totally.
so scary.
So, well, Kate, you do an amazing job. You're West
Thank you for
Hartford and
having me.
Newport, Rhode Island. You're killing it. From commercial to residential, you've done it all. Yeah, I love that you're personally involved in fixes and flips. That tees you
Yeah.
up really, really well to
Keeps
help
me up
your
with all the
clients.
trends, all of the trends. I like it.
Yeah.
I like being ahead of the trend. I
So
hate it
I'm
when I see a renovation that I know is renovated, for a style that's about to go out in about 30 seconds. I'm like, oh,
so
not
well,
so.
Kate Diadabato, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, it's the Adventures of a Real Estate Broker. You're going to love this episode, of course, because Kate's Kate. Thank you very much. And until next time, thank you very much.
Thank you. Great to meet you. Have a great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
All right.
Take
Bye.
care. Okay.
Bye.
Bye. If today's stories opened your eyes, wait till you see what's next. Hit the video on screen to join the next adventure with Daniel Berger.